so I don't forget. Like I've had a couple of times where I've forgotten to start the recording. And I promise I'm going to do better in getting the recordings uploaded. We've got a list or of all the videos for these discussions that we've had, and I'm going to try to get those up there. But we're going to see something today that I hope I sort of been waiting for with regards to our videos, because we've seen a number of our meetings have gone as long as 3 hours. And the on the one hand, I feel, wow, that's sort of an endorsement that you find the meetings useful, that you stay so long. On the other hand, for those who miss the meetings and come and see, oh wow, there's a 3 hour recording here. That's probably intimidating to the idea of, oh, do I have to really go through all of that? So I've been sort of holding out, looking for something that will enable us to take 3 hour recordings and maybe cut them down to 10 to 15 minutes.
I
And
thought that's what AI was for.
well, that's exactly what I've been finding now. So I'm going to be doing some testing with that, and so we'll see how well that goes. So let's
The
see.
note taker does that, doesn't it?
What's that?
The note taker does that, doesn't it?
That's what we're going to be talking about here, was the options of how we go and give you another 72 hours in a day. And so we'll look for that. Okay, so 1 minute more and we will get started here. Okay, just a little bit. So it's been a very exciting week. Last weekend, I was in Washington, D.C. We had a Model UN session in Washington. We now do those, at least for here in the United States. We bounce between Washington, D.C. and New York. We're going up, I think we'll be doing now four a year, two at the UN and two in Washington. And it's the quality of the young people from around the world that are coming together there is just really mind-boggling. Is the only way I can say that. When we look here at the quality of people, and I don't care where you're coming from. I met a number of young people this last weekend from Rwanda, from Pakistan, from Ghana. These young people, literally from around the world, are just amazing. I sort of feel, can we just go and get rid of all the governments we got around the world and turn this over to these young people? Because they're thinking it, and it's just so amazing what they're able to do. And so we had some very interesting discussions there. Let me get this meeting started, and I'll at the beginning of the meeting I'll discuss that. So, ding. I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, and I declare this meeting of November 16, 2024 to be open. We're going to discuss this morning another in our series of artificial intelligence in education. And we're going to explore some things that I discovered. Maybe some of you, I'm hoping some of you have had parallel discoveries and are going to be able to add to the discussion. But the things that are happening there are just so incredible and going so fast that I think when we look forward, even just looking 3 to 6 months into the future, we're going to see that the education opportunities are almost going to be education is almost going to be unrecognizable compared to where we are today. Um, One of the things here we know that, for example, in the United States, student loans is a really, really significant factor on our entire economy because such a large percentage of the population has so much student loans, and people are in their 50s before they're able to pay off their student loans. And the technologies we're going to talk about today have the potential to literally eliminate the idea of student loans because will eliminate the idea that universities cost any significant amount of money, and that's going to have a ripple effect through the everything to do with education. So we'll dive right into that. But before I begin with that, I just want to mention we were talking a little bit before I started the meeting that last weekend I had the opportunity and pleasure to participate in a Model UN in Washington, D.C. with young people from around the world. And not only were these young people so amazing in the way they approached global problems and thinking about solutions to global problems and building consensus on how to address these problems, but we had an opportunity to talk a little bit about how artificial intelligence might be changing the world of diplomacy and parliamentary governing, that whole area where we're hoping that people who are guiding us and governing know about all the problems. They really understand the problems that we're facing in the world, and they know how to come together to develop consensus on actions that can really have an impact in the world. So these young people, as I said, from Pakistan, from Rwanda, from Ghana, from many other parts of the world, that unless you see it, I wish we had recordings of those sessions, which I don't know, there's probably some kind of privacy things with young people, but these are people from age, I think, 16 up to about 26. And but just absolutely amazing. But one of the things is as we got in talking about the problems that governments and organizations like the United Nations have in achieving meaningful consensus to be able to actually act and do things. And we started to discuss how artificial intelligence can play a role, how artificial intelligence can help committee representatives to the various committees to really understand the issues and the problems, to understand the positions of all the various stakeholders. Why do they have the positions they have? And to understand how to be able to develop strategies to bring people together. That AI can really help in tremendous ways to elevate the quality of debate and discussion in these kinds of governing bodies. And so we will, towards the end of that here, after we've talked a little bit about some of the tools that can change education, because in a way, it's all about education. Because whether you're studying to get a degree, to do a better job on something, or you're studying to find ways to solve a problem, it's all about education. So I want to present today some observations and the results of some discussions I've had with AI. I'm sort of falling into that category here of I spend an awful lot of time with AI. I'm just hoping my wife keeps her patience with that. But the discussions, the capability of having really deep discussions, it increases every couple of days. It increases significantly, and you develop new insights. So the first thing I want to do here is I want to talk about a product called Notebook LM from Google. And the reason I'm picking this, and it could be there, I'm sure everybody else is working to come up with the similar products, but that one's there. It's there now. And So I want to start off with just seeing here. Um, who has understanding? Raise your hand, please, if you're familiar with Notebook LM from Google. It's been out about a month and a half, I guess. It's been out longer, actually. It's been out since the early part of the year, but the way it is now, it's only been out there for a couple of months. Okay, so we got a few hands, but not too many. So what I'll do here is I'll just take a minute to go over an overview of what it is. Um, it's a note-taking tool, if you would, in the broadest sense. But the idea here is that you can go and you can start a notebook. Let me just share my screen. Okay.
Bill, while you're doing that, I just want to make a quick comment. After our discussion yesterday, I did a review on a website with Notebook LLM, and I was just blown away by it.
Yeah, I think that is a very typical situation here. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see my screen, and I think as Geeta just pointed out, um, when you first look at this thing, you say, "Oh, okay, interesting," but when you dig into it, you see so much more. So I'm going to go here. Let me see if I can. Um, Let me go over. The idea here is you can create notebooks. You can create notebooks about all kinds of things. And I'll take this. This is the Italian Diplomatic Academy. I went and I just created it. No, well, actually, let me just go and create one. It's that simple. And now you can upload sources into that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so the idea is here you can put a bunch of sources in. You can put 50 sources. Those sources can individually be the size of an entire book. Now, just as an example, you can upload Google Docs. You can upload Google Slides. You can upload websites. You just put in a website. You can upload YouTube videos. Just the links. You just put the links to a website, the links to a YouTube video, the links to you can just copy text into this. You can, as it shows here, you can put in PDFs, audio files, MP3. You just dump every bit of knowledge you can find relative to any kind of a subject into that. And then once you've gone and put subjects in, I'm going to go to a notebook that is already there. We'll go to this one here um, on IDA. And you can see here, I uploaded a source. Now, what's the source? I just put in a website, just a website address. And what did it do? It came up and it came up with making me a quiz to test my knowledge of do I understand what this Italian Diplomatic Academy is all about. So I can go into here and it'll ask questions for that. It will create a study guide if I want to learn about it, and including all the citations on it. So it will generate this, how to do further research, insights, all kinds of information about its mission, where it's located, all kinds of information. It I don't know what this one is. Maybe even it's just the summary of some information on it, and it created a briefing document to that would brief, including all the citations about it. So we can see that it came up with a lot of information. But here's the thing: I can create a frequently asked questions, a study guide, table of contents, a timeline about it, a briefing documentations on this. I can also, let me just click this to just put this down here. And I can have it generate an audio overview as to what this is all about. And then I can come in as suggestion questions. What's the Italian Diplomatic Academy's role in promoting international relationships and diplomacy? How does the Italian Diplomatic Academy prepare students for careers? What are its key partnerships and affiliations? And then it went here and created
Okay,
this
so
audio
imagine you're at
overview.
like a UN summit, right in the middle of it all, trying to negotiate some major international agreement. Or maybe you're leading a humanitarian mission in some conflict zone. How do you even like begin to prepare for that kind of global impact?
Well, that's what we're diving into today, the Italian Diplomatic Academy, or IDA for short, and how it like shapes individuals into forces for change on the world stage.
Yeah, the IDA, it's not just some theoretical place, it's about practical skills and real world experience. And it all starts with their network. I mean, think about it. Over 26,500 students from 140 countries have passed through their doors. That's a network that spans the entire globe.
It's really much.
Okay, so the thing about it is what did I do? What did I do to get all this? I went and put in, by the way, that continues for almost 13 minutes. I'll just skip ahead to a little section here.
Ron, working in a high pressure, challenging environment. He says his success is thanks to the guidance and support he got at the IDA.
It's a real testament to how the IDA prepares people for demanding roles, no matter where they end up. And it's not just for people who want to be diplomats, right? They've got opportunities for students, professionals, even companies. It's remarkably inclusive.
Absolutely. Whether you want to break into international relations or advance your career.
No institution is perfect. Are there any criticisms of the IDA that we should talk about?
Well, one thing people might say is that since it's in Italy and they focus on Italian language and culture, it might have a Eurocentric bias.
That's a valid point. What do they say about that?
They're aware of it and they're actively trying to counter it. Remember how we talked about their diverse student body?
Yeah.
People from over 140 countries?
Okay, so this is just giving you a little bit of sense. What did I do? I went in here and I put in the URL of their website. That's it. That's all I did. Notebook LM went and from the website went and pulled out all the information, all the links to affiliated organizations, all that information, and created all of this study information for me. And I can go, as I said, we can have up to 50 sources. So I can put in all these different sorts. I could put in 10 websites. I could go and put in 20 YouTube links. I could go and put in research documents about international relations, about the UN, about the European Union. We could put in all kinds of things. There's so many international relations. There's courses out there from tutorials and courses online from various sources. Coursera's got courses, others have courses. I can put those links in and it'll pull all that information together, synthesize all of it, summarize the collective of all that knowledge, make me a study guide as to how I can become an expert in all that knowledge. So this is one example. So we're looking here at one example that I did, and I spent here less than 5 minutes to get all this information, to be able to get here this
That's not an accident.
audio
They want
overview.
diverse perspectives.
Okay, to get all of that. So just your initial impression of what we did. I'd like to do that. So I'm going to stop the share for a minute. And I'd just like to get thoughts. Those of you who have done something yourself with this, or some of you who are seeing this for the first time, what your thought. Oh, I have to add one more thing. I actually made a second one for the Italian Diplomatic Academy. And again, all I put in was their website. And I just asked Notebook LM because you can put in to Notebook LM. Let me go and share that again just for a second. One of the things here is I have to do it on a new one. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I don't, this one here, I'm not going to care if I lose lose their. So here you see, I have not yet created this audio overview, and I just click generate. But before I do that, I can do customize. So one of the things I did is I loaded in the website, and in the customization, I said, please critique my website and give me suggestions for how I can make the website more effective. And it did that. It created a audio podcast like you just heard, where it talked about the positives and the weaknesses in the website itself. So,
Can I create the visuals that would be added to the website and all the basically redesign it?
no, but not at this point. There are other tools that can do that. So that's where you would go to ChatGPT with Canvas, or you could go to Claude with artifacts, uh, probably also using Cursor with that. And you can literally say, make me a website. You can literally say, I like this website. Give the URL of the website you like and say, make me a website that's structured like that one. And then you can
Which
just verbally tell it what you want in your website.
which was that?
You can either go to ChatGPT with Canvas, and it will write the program. It'll split your screen into two halves. On the left half, you tell it what you want. In the right hand, you'll actually see it writing the computer code to generate your website. Now there's another one. Claude has the same thing with artifacts. It'll split your screen. Claude's from Anthropic. It'll split your screen into two halves. And the left half, you just describe what you want, and in the right half it makes it. Now it'll make images. It'll make everything you're asking for, and it will actually run it for you. It'll make it and execute it right there in the right hand side of your screen all at once. And if something doesn't work, it'll say, "Oh, this doesn't work. Let me fix it." Or if you see something, you say, "Oh, that's pretty good, but I really wanted this part up here to be the heading to be larger, or I wanted to have a marquee, scrolling marquee across the front." You just tell it that. You just say, I want to have a scrolling marquee along the front, and I want these three items to be highlighted there, and it will make it for you. It'll generate it for you.
And you can just talk to it instead of having to type it in.
Well, the Claude, not Claude is text based, so you're going to have to type it in. You can speak to it in ChatGPT, and it's coming available pretty much in everything. But there's a a tool I showed last week for editing images, where you literally just say, "Oh, you know what? Can you change that from a boy to a girl? Can you have them wearing this kind of clothes instead of that clothes? Can you change the hairdo to be like this instead of like that?" I think I showed an example where it showed two pictures, each with two people in it, and it said, "Can you?" And they were doing totally unrelated things. Can you take the right hand person from the left picture and the left hand person from the right picture, and make a new picture showing the two of them having dinner together? And bang, it does it. You just said it. You just verbally speak it, and bang, it does it. Okay, and that's important for something I'm going to present here with regards to Notebook LM. Because, well, first I want to, just from what you saw, because a lot of you had not indicated that you had experience with Notebook LM before. I'd like to hear your comments, your thoughts on what you saw regarding Notebook LM as a tool to be able to learn, where you can just go, you can go out to ChatGPT, go out anywhere you can find, do a search in YouTube, come up with a list, go to Perplexity or any search tool, come up with a list of documents, of PDFs, of websites that are interesting, of YouTube videos. You just come up with a list and you go and you dump them all into up to 50 of them into Notebook LM, and Notebook LM will synthesize the entire collective base of all that knowledge, and it will generate for you a study guide, frequently asked questions, quizzes to quiz you, um, everything about it. So you can go out there and say, give me all the best resources about advanced physics, to learn advanced physics, and dump all that about advanced physics into Notebook LM, and it will develop you a study guide and all summarizing all the information for you to learn everything there is about advanced physics. What are your thoughts on that? Please.
I think it's a great research assistance, and it really encourages self-learning, lifelong learners.
Okay. Others?
I
Yes,
think it's
well,
very useful because right now I'm taking courses and the assignments are, I mean, because I think you by now know me. I'm very meticulous about what I do, and I like to do quality things. So I spend a lot of time trying to understand first what is being asked and how to generate something that is the quality. So this kind of thing really helps taking or breaking or reducing the time that we spend doing or something like that. I've been trying that like this past week, the last two, trying to come up. Now I have all these, I generated all these resources that are good. I got good grades. Now I want to come up with something else.
Okay.
Can you generate that for me? And I haven't been able to do it, but I know,
okay. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can help even on generating all of that. Michael, yes, please.
Thank you very much. It is a very good tool to me, and I think it will be very useful in investigating crimes, and those ones who are interested in investigative journalism can actually use this tool to, solve certain crimes. I don't know if it can do that, but I think it can. So really, yeah, it is a good tool.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Actually, that's a use case I never even would have thought of here. The idea of can a tool like this help solve crimes? You could literally have a team, because you can do this with teams of people, and have everybody just dump everything they discovered about a crime, every little clue and thing, dump it in there, and ask Notebook LM, please analyze this and give us your thoughts as to how it might have happened, or give us your recommendations of where should we look to find more clues to try to discover what's going on. And that applies to the same, let's say you're doing a PhD study, and you've got to come up with something original. You can go out and literally pull together from all kinds of diverse people or doing research in a particular field, and then have it synthesize, summarize all that information from all those researchers. But then you can ask it when it's doing that audio, please advise me where I should look next. Please advise me as to what you've managed to discern out of these multiple researchers as clues to what might be close to a breakthrough, or what might be a new discovery. So that's very interesting. Ian.
Yeah, I'd like to use that for my own website because I'm trying to develop an idea of how technology can help solve, a lot of the environmental crisis. And I'm sure there's plenty of holes in my knowledge, and I want to find out where they are.
Yes, and I think you can go out there and maybe you find a dozen websites that are in the direction of where you want your website to be. and you can just put all dozen of those in, and then you can ask it to please compare, tell it which is your website, and say, please pick out all the best features of all these other websites, and tell me how or which ones I should incorporate into my website, and tell me how. It's, until you've played with it, it's really hard to imagine how limitless the options are there.
I have a point. Yeah,
Yes.
I have a point. I think this notebook LM or any tool or software like that, they are completely changing the course of research and the direction, the way researchers used to do the research, whether it's PhD or their MPhil programs, and the monopoly the researchers and the supervisors had previously. Now, notebook LM and tools like that are the clear answer to these kind of things, that we are going into a new era where we can easily pursue our higher studies, where we can easily pursue our research, where we can easily do all these things without coming into so much pressure. Being a student, I have done my 2, 3 MBAs. Since last 10 years, I'm studying. And the pressure which I felt, I cannot explain it in words. But notebook LM or tools like that are the clear answer to all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ian sort of mentioned here the idea of looking and say, I want to improve my website. And Kurt was talking about here on developing things. You might say, hey, I'm not a programmer, but you can go out there and you can find probably 100 tutorials on how to become a Python programmer, how to learn how to program. You could pick the top 50 of those, go out to Perplexity and say, rank them, find me the top 50 tutorials on how to be a great programmer. And then you can go dump those into Notebook LM, and they create me a study guide. It will take the best features of all those 50 different tutorials and say, come up with the study guide to make me an expert programmer in the shortest amount of time.
But I would like to add one more thing. Recently, 2, 3 days back, I have just Google around that what I have to do while I have done my MBA in marketing. Now I wanted to pursue with AI. Then a university in Germany, they approached me because I was just finding some universities who are doing their MPA or MPhil and PhD AI plus marketing. So they offered me that these are the courses which we are offering, and you would be exempted from few courses of marketing. And these are the degrees for master's level and MPhil level with the amalgamation with AI. So the things are changing, and I'm really happy. And people like me are obviously are happy that at least we are not restricted towards programming, or I am the one who's in the bracket of marketing, or I am in the bracket of project management. No, now it's for everyone. That is the best part.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a comment. Somebody made a comment here. This is becoming the democratization of knowledge.
Exactly. This is the right term you have used. And whoever has used it, the right term.
Okay, great. Amar, please.
Yeah, but thank you, Amar. Thank you. But you know my background of policing. So you just talked about the use of AI for some crime investigation. I think it's a big opportunity for the law enforcement people to understand AI. But the biggest challenge will be that we'll have to take from the zero to them, because right now they don't have any understanding of these things. I think AI can be very useful in crime investigation in many ways we can talk about. It can identify suspects. Whenever a crime takes place, there's some sort of identifying the suspects based on the cameras we have, things like this. So I think using facial recognition or images, or what we can do is identify the real suspects. Then we can analyze the evidence. We can predict crimes. Actually, we can proactively respond that this crime is going to happen in this area based on the previous data we are talking about. And we can analyze the results, for example, that if this thing is going to happen, then this thing is going to happen. So there are so many ways in we can use artificial intelligence in investigation. But I would like to have your quick comment on it that to start these things in a country like Pakistan, for example, we need to orchestrate the entire atmosphere because right now when we are talking, there are some academies, there are some resource centers where all these people can talk about. But I think the international cooperation, for example, I was just studying that in Canada, I think they were much ahead of all these things. And back in 2018, somewhere they talked about the use of AI tools, all these things. So I think I would like to have your quick comments on that how we can bring all these organizations, people together because it's a big challenge because right now we are all in a state of confusion. Everything is available on a click of a button. We just need to access the information, but how to grasp it, how to understand it, and very importantly, how to put all these things into some system in which our investigation system, which is currently in force, can help others also. Thank you.
Yeah, I think here the best thing might be initially to not focus on a particular area because you mentioned crime, but you're very much into cybersecurity. Just imagine here that you could take all the top 50 resources of the world with regards to cybersecurity, dump them into Notebook LM, and it would make a study guide. It would give you briefing documents. It would give you all the information for anybody to become an expert in the shortest amount of time on all the key most important items related to cybersecurity. And then you could actually drill it down to various levels of details into specialized sub areas with regards to cybersecurity. But you've got in Pakistan, you've got your CIT centers you're building everywhere. Uh, Notebook LM doesn't care what you want to learn. You could go and do, as Huma was saying, she's looking at marketing or marketing with AI. There's a gazillion really good tutorials out there, and your major universities. There's that network of universities that publish their courses online that you can access. We could just dump all that stuff into Notebook LM, and now you've got the best expert knowledge on marketing. And you just say, okay, I want to master. I want to become a master in everything on marketing there, and it will give you the guide on how to proceed to learn all that. So, one of the things you might do is get your CIT centers to all go and maybe have banks of laptops or where people can come and plug their laptop in, and they can learn that. But you can also share it. So you might be able to put a team together of a handful of people that say, we're going to make a course on cybersecurity. And what you do is you go out there and find your experts, find the best tutorials, the best academic papers, the best websites that have to deal with cybersecurity. You load those into a notebook with Notebook LM, and you go and have it generate the study guides and all those different things, the frequently asked questions, and then you share it. You make that so now anybody can go in and pull your expert notebook about cybersecurity and learn everything about cybersecurity. But I want to move on in a second to the where we can go from here, because this is relatively new. People are going crazy about what they can do with this. But I want to talk about, okay, how do we take this to the next level? Right now we talked about, okay, you can go out there and you can find the best 50 resources about a subject, any subject that you can come to mind. You can say, I want to know about longevity studies. I want to know about who's doing research into DNA. I want to know about what's the latest status on medical diagnoses, AI support of medical diagnoses. And you just dump all the best materials you can find about that and say, I don't have time to read 50 academic papers. I don't even have time to watch 50 YouTube videos that are each 20 minutes long. But what I want is, instead of going and me looking at 50 times 20 minutes here to understand all that, I wanted to synthesize all the gist, the main, most important information together. And I wanted to put study guides together to help me master whatever that is, so that I can now learn all of that stuff in an hour or two.
Hmm?
So, Michael, yes, you wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you very much. The way you've been explaining or presenting about how this magic thing is AI, we have issues like HIV in in the global, well, everywhere worldwide. Couldn't it be the problem? I mean, the thing that could help come up with the solutions to eradicating these diseases. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's a great idea. What you could do there's so many projects being done in so many different directions around the world with regards, for example, for diseases, for any particular disease. You could go and find all the project reports on what's being done in different countries, what's being done with different treatment approaches, what's being done with different prevention courses or publicity campaigns and things like this. You could just take all of that, dump it into a notebook LM, and ask the notebook LM to go and compare the success rates, or compare the information, or come up with synthesization out of that that would point to directions. And then be able to start to look at, how do I take that to the next place? Because initially what Notebook LM is, well, I was about to say it sort of limits, it sort of takes the total sum of all the information in the world, and now goes and creates a context down to whatever those source documents and YouTubes and things like that that you put into that you reference, because that's gonna say, oh, this is the world of knowledge that I'm going to explore and pull information from. Having said that, I have found here that when it goes out and creates these podcasts, all of a sudden it comes in with evidence that it's gone somewhere and found out the statistics related to this or that, and it plugs it into those. And I couldn't find where that was in any of those source documents, but I found that it was accurate. So apparently it does go out, but that's maybe an area for improvement that might come out in one of the next levels, to be able to say, okay, can I ask this to open the door and take out of the summary information that it uses that as a foundation to now go out into the broader information base and find further information related to those summaries. Yes, Ian.
How good is it at BS detection? I mean, for instance, if if somebody who was into the Q conspiracy got 50 Q websites together and threw them into this, would it just agree with whatever it found?
I would suspect yes, because of the fact that uh, whoever's curating the sources, whoever's saying, "Hey, these are the sources, and I want you to pull the information from those sources." So, it's really based on the quality of who's curating the sources.
Rubbish
But
in, rubbish out.
yeah, but there's an example here of talking about simplified use cases. Let's say you're in a company and you've got your user manuals, you've got your tech support manuals, you got all this information related to products. You can just dump all of that in, and the Notebook LM becomes a total expert on your product. So it's enabling you to develop a knowledge base, a a controlled knowledge base, if you would, relative to something. So that way, if we go out there and say, oh, there's a lot of comments that are misleading about how to use a particular product or whatnot, those are excluded because you did not include those in that knowledge base. You only included the trustworthy sources. So, but I want to go and say, because what do you think right now when you hear about this? What do you think is the biggest challenge that you're going to have if you want to use Notebook LM now to build the knowledge base, the expert knowledge base, or to guide you through the learning process on something? What's the biggest initial challenge that you're likely to experience?
I think one of the problems will be, especially if the where you get a change in the zeitgeist of of um, of what's going on. How do you root out what you've already done? I mean, you probably need to restart with a lot of these things, so that previous misconceptions are rooted out, and that doesn't reintegrate itself into the system.
Okay, let me see here if I can find. By the way, this is an example from a friend that somebody passed away. We were able to go and pull all the knowledge together on German inheritance law to help them with that. So, but let me see. I think maybe this one hasn't. Okay, no, but you see where the check marks are over here on the left-hand side, where you've got sources. Here's where I can add sources, and here's where it would list the 50 sources down. I can go here and select that I want to include or exclude certain of those sources from a particular discussion. So in that way, I can guide where I want this thing to go relative to a certain subject. And then, I didn't really highlight this, but down at the bottom here, you can have this base of your 50 documents and websites and YouTubes and everything else, and you can chat with the sum of the knowledge out of all those sources. You can chat with it. You can ask it, well, why do you think this? Or can you find any disagreements among those sources where they have different opinions on a particular item, and what are the arguments of the different ones to those different positions? So it's pretty wild what we can do in that regard.
And that reintegrates itself into the knowledge base.
Yeah, in the knowledge inside the knowledge base, I can restrict. For example, when I go and create one of those audio podcasts where they discuss the sum of the knowledge, I can say, okay, only talk about the knowledge from this one source or from these 5 sources. I don't have to include the total sum of the knowledge base all the time. I can restrict what parts of the knowledge base I'm talking to at a particular time. But my question was here, just thinking about this and saying, oh, gee, I think yeah, that could be interesting. What do you see as the major challenge? Anybody?
May I?
Yes, please.
I think one of the major challenges when we are collating or when we are putting so much data and so many different research or thesis or any other article or any other file of somebody else. So, and we are trying to get the summary out of that. I think the rights of that person who has written it, that can be, no?
No, I mean that could be, but that that's up to you at this stage if the thing doesn't stop you from pulling information from a particular source. But
It's
right
not
now, basically, it's like a book. You know, I wrote a book, and it's not like here that I'm locking it up and saying, no, you can't read that book. So it's not like it's going and plagiarizing out of your to write a new book. This is
Hmm.
just something that is going to help you do research. So if
Exactly.
somebody goes out and puts their in knowledge in the public domain, that's pretty much where this is coming from, if you would.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. But
Got it.
you're close though. But just think about here. If you want to use this tool,
Okay.
and you can put in up to 50 of the world's best sources of knowledge and information on it,
Hmm.
what's the first thing you have to do?
Are you capable enough to deliver that?
You might have to get access to it.
Well,
I
you
mean,
might have to
how
get
are you
access.
going to your
Are
username and
you
password to actually get
uh,
in there on all these different things?
Yeah.
to justify whatever you have collated and summarized through Notebook LM?
Well,
Because the thing is,
the first thing is here, where did you find out what sources to put into it?
You have to verify that the sources are legit because they could be,
yes,
they may
yes.
not be
This is
official.
one of the basic, yeah, this is the basic rule.
Yeah, but keep in mind, it only puts the sources in that you specify. So, you know, it's up to you to go and say, I want to include this source. I don't want to include that source.
You have to be smart enough to put the right sources.
But the first challenge is, how do you find out what sources? Do you know every YouTube video that's out there that's a good
No.
tutorial on something? Do you know every website out there that is accurate and does a good job?
Mhm.
Do you know all the scientific papers, the academic papers, or all the textbooks that,
So
right?
how do you get the original list and make sure that they're
Yes,
legit, like real?
right.
Mm.
So today, what would you do?
Collaborate with ChatGPT.
Okay, you can go to ChatGPT, you can go to Perplexity. ChatGPT is just upgraded to ChatGPT search. So it does a much better job at search. You can go to Google search. You can go and search YouTube. So you can, Perplexity is maybe the one that most people are saying, hey, this is the tool they find most useful to
Yes.
find those sources. But now I'm sitting there and yes, you can go to Perplexity and say rank these sources on how people have reviewed them to say, you know, how good they are. But you've got to do that. So now, even if you got Perplexity to go and give you a good list, you got to sit there one by one and cut and paste that URL that it gave you for a website and then paste it into Notebook LM, then go get the next one. Maybe it's a URL of a YouTube and get that and cut and paste it and put that into Notebook LM. That's a very time consuming if you're going to do that up to 50 times.
Yes.
It can be very time consuming. And especially here, if it's pointed out a whole bunch of research papers, academic papers out there that you're not sure of, you've got to go out there and read those somehow get an understanding of which ones include the kind of information you're looking for. Now, the search tools and things are getting better so that it's no longer just searching on titles and keywords and things like this, but it's a tedious thing. So how cool would it be if Notebook LM had in it a link to Perplexity, or that Perplexity had it and said, oh, okay, here's the top 50 sources of all those different types. And it gives you the option to plug a button to create a Notebook LM. How cool would that be?
It
How
will be
cool
great.
would it? Pardon?
So
Huma?
does it?
It will be great
Yeah. Yes, Ian.
if, okay.
So does it have that?
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Okay.
So what I'm suggesting here is though that as I said, I'm looking here to say what are some of the things here that we're looking for? I think that's coming. I think because we're seeing Gemini is pulling all these, that's Google's ChatGPT equivalent, they're pulling all this functionality together. But I think that's one of the ones that we're going to try to encourage Google to prioritize, making the ability to find the right resources to populate the knowledge base. Okay, that's the biggest initial challenge is how do I populate the knowledge base, because I don't know about everything, and I can spend days out there searching to try to find good YouTube videos, tutorials, or whatever for the subject matter that I'm looking for. So that's one of the things that that we're looking for. Another thing here is if we're saying, okay, the big challenge is how do I get a knowledge base that really has the best information on some subject? I want to study astrophysics. Okay, so let me go out there now and I'm going to spend days searching and collating and curating to pull together my knowledge base on astrophysics. Well, if I've got 1,000 people out there that all want to know about astrophysics, does it make sense to have 1,000 people all redundantly going out there and searching to build a notebook on astrophysics? So how valuable would it be to have the functionality to be able to create libraries, to have Google have a master library that would almost be like YouTube's, where they invite people to curate. So you get the top professors in a field that go out there and curate all the sources for their whatever their field is and create that notebook, create and go out there to study guide, because you can tweak those things and the podcasts and so forth. And now we go to a library. So you're going out there and saying, I want to study something. Before I go out there and create a notebook on genetic engineering or on astrophysics or on advanced marketing or whatever, I just go out there and see, is there a notebook already? If there's a notebook already out there, I can just open it, and in 15 to 20 minutes on the presentation, I understand exactly what this is, the scope of what it's covering, and is it covering what I want or what I need or not? So if you had that, imagine now if you had that, so you've got a university that's gone and here's a notebook, or not only that, you have right now, you've got these networks of cooperatives of universities where all the universities have collaborated and they're putting their courses relative to certain subjects online. If they collaborate to create a notebook that's for every one of the subjects that they're teaching. So let's say a university, all their master's degree programs, every one of the courses in their master's degree programs got a notebook out there that the top professors from 50 universities got together and curated all the best sources of knowledge relative to a subject and put it out there. Can you see how that might shorten the amount of time it takes for you to master all the information for a master's degree?
Exactly.
So the first thing we said would be great if they would provide us a tool where we could just say, hey, go and collect all the best knowledge relative to this subject and create a notebook for me. But the idea is that once people have created a really good notebook, maybe with the ability for people to rate it and put reviews, so you can see, hey, this was the one that most people think is the best notebook out there related to astrophysics, and now you can just go there and you get the sum of the best lectures, the sum of the best tutorials, the best YouTubes, academic papers, everything relative to this. So those would be two pretty cool features for them to add to this. And of course, they could make this the parallel to YouTube, where they could go in now and plug in some advertising, or they could make it that that people have their channels, if you would, on certain subjects. So let's look a step further and say, what else would be a nice enhancement to have to this? Well, if I go out there and say, I want to I want a master's degree in market research. I want to take a course on market research for my master's. And there's a lot of information about market research. There's all kinds of different sampling, the statistical type of information. There's also information on data scrubbing and different things that you need to know to really understand market research options. So the question is, so fine, I've got this big long list, and yeah, it gave me a list of a sequence there, but wouldn't it really help me if it was able to go analyze the total sum of knowledge in a subject area and figure out what are each of the individual concepts? So it breaks down that all that learning material into what are the concepts, and then figures out what the learning dependencies are. In other words, what concepts do you need to really be able to comprehend other concepts that build on that prior knowledge? And it's able to understand, so it's able to break all these things down and now sequence them out there so that you know exactly in what sequence you need to approach to learn each of these learning concepts. And in each learning concept, it tells you, okay, this is what you need to know about this. And then once you've mastered that, now you can go on to the next step. Yes. So the idea is, if it would do that, if it takes any subject that you built the knowledge base on, and it now creates and takes that study guide idea and breaks it into learning units, so that okay, I got to learn this, then I got to learn that, then I got to learn this, then I got to learn that. And along the way, it tells you what you need to know about each one of those. And then it actually has a quiz to quiz you before to determine, are you ready to go on to the next item or not? So literally, it's guiding you through the entire process to learn whatever that subject is. And we've already concluded it can be any subject. You want to learn how to do magic tricks, it could be about that. It could be.
And
yeah.
Bill, somehow or the other, after talking to you since almost a year on AI and the development in AI, I want all subjects to be mingled, integrated. Because the thing is, we have to get rid of this taboo that only engineers can study this, only a marketer can study this, or only a doctor can study this. Now, after this AI revolution, it is in the transitional phase, at least we have some fresh air to breathe, that being a marketing person, I can have a degree in AI as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm very happy about that. And this is one of the best thing, and we can serve to the humanity, because all the youth, the youngsters, all the people who are seniors, but they are going towards getting their degrees, this is their major problem. This was their major problem. Now it will not be that problem, because when the courses are mingled up with different subjects, with different AI concepts, then I think things will be totally different within 5 or 3 years when it comes to degree.
Actually, here, I don't know about years, because think of this, we're only about 2 months into the kind of what this is capable of right now.
That's great.
Imagine where we're going to be in 2 months in the future, because Google's already announced they're coming out with Gemini 2.0 before the end of the year, and they have what's the name of the Jarvis is their agent technology. This is all coming. So this is coming very fast. So I think before the next school year starts for most parts of the world, this would be there. The question is whether people are going to know it and know how to use it. And it's totally free, by the way. You just need to go to notebooklm.google.com and it's free. And you can do everything I described here.
Yeah, talking about Gemini, I think Google has to do some tweaking in there because it's a little, it doesn't recall what it was like ChatGPT. Like if you spend some time elaborating in a specific subject and it waits like 30 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour and want to continue in that, it doesn't remember and says,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm just learning. I'm just learning." I say, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't want you to learn. I want you to do it." Okay.
Yeah.
And
we do know
ChatGPT actually recalls right away. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like you build up in there.
Well, you have the ability to turn that on or off in ChatGPT, but the default, I think, is now on for most people, memory. And you can come back to something that you were chatting about 2 months ago with ChatGPT, and it will literally just pick up where you left off. It knows exactly where you were on your last part of the discussion. So what I've been doing here is as I've discovered new features, I go back to a discussion I maybe had about something that could be related, and then I just add the knowledge about the new information into it, and it just incorporates it. It adds it into the mixture of what we were talking about. But the idea here is the world's going to be moving towards mastery-based education. That means that you don't move on to something until you've mastered all the prerequisites. Now, when we're in school, most of the kids say, "Hey, I just want to," because we grade students based on how long they sat in their seat. We don't grade them on how much they know. Not really. It's we promote based on, did you sit there for a year? And so students just want to go through the motions. But keep in mind, there's a lot of people now that go to universities, for example, who have been out there in the workforce, and they're going to get some degree of kind of knowledge that's going to help advance them, qualify them for a promotion or do something else. Those people, it's all about the knowledge. So it's a very different audience. But one of the challenges we've got to all of this today is what it costs, the student loans that people incur to be able to study, to pay $20,000 or $40,000 a year for having access to knowledge. And what we're really talking about here is if I've got the ability for any subject course that I need to study, that something that, because I might be able to put in what's the testing criteria or whatnot at the end to verify that I've mastered all of this knowledge, and I've got the best experts in the world potentially walking me through learning that knowledge. Would I ever go to a professor's lecture? Why would I go to a professor's lecture? Do I think that professor who's sitting there talking to 100 to 200 people out there, or in some schools maybe it's a smaller amount, but it's not one-on-one, that they're doing generic talking, whereas this thing here is understanding me and getting to be able to guide me through this process of learning and mastering this information. I don't even have the time to walk to the location that the lecture would be otherwise being given, walking back. I can apply that to learning. And it's going to take here, if one of my fellow students records the lecture, I can add that to the Notebook LM, and it will take that 50-minute lecture and break it down to 5 minutes of what the key really takeaways are from the lecture there. So I'm able to get all the benefit of that lecture in 5 minutes, and maybe having a whole bunch of other experts commenting on the lecture contents to say, "Oh, this is why this is so important," or that, so giving me different perspectives on it. Yes, Ian.
Well, I mean, it depends on your situation. If you're actually close to the thing and you walk in, you go into the lecture You put up your hand and you ask a particular question that you wanted the answer to. I know you probably get the thing, but it gives you a sense of what the professor knows, and it may open another door for you.
How about this? That you've got your fellow student recorded the lecture, and you're able to go and have that in Notebook LM, and you ask in Notebook LM of the professor's lecture your question, and you get
Yeah,
the answer back from all of that information
all
out there,
sorts. Yeah.
right? This is a little bit where this is going. Now, let's take this to the next step. Okay, I have, I've got this, it broke it down, all my different learning units that I need to learn along the way. It's got them based on the dependency relationships, showing all the prerequisites and mapping it out. It's testing my knowledge of each individual concept before it moves me on to the next concept. And it did all this on anything. I took any chunk of knowledge that I want, dumped it in here and say, make me an expert on this. And now the capability is that, gee, this is all well and good, but I want to be able to talk to the knowledge base. I want to be able to just sort of brainstorm aloud or think aloud about this and say, is that and why is this important and what's going on with that and this, so I can have a dialogue, if you would, with this virtual know-it-all professor. So that's another thing that we're looking at. That now that's there to a degree, but it's not there. Somebody mentioned here about the voice. I think it was Kurt saying, "Oh, can I just talk to this? Can I just have a chat about this whatever this knowledge is?" And we just think aloud and explore. Could it be that? Well, what if I tried this? It's a chemistry course. And it says if you do these chemicals and they mix this the way they react, and this is why. So that I could just say, well, but what if I did this a little different? What if I heated it up a little more, or a little faster, or whatever? So these things that we're talking about, if we had these add-ons, I think this could be amazing. Now, I want to. So I went here and I had a discussion. Okay. So I had a discussion here with I went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT about the Notebook LM and about what things would enhance Notebook LM the most. And it created this paper for me. Let's see what. So here it came up with this proposal for enhancing Notebook LM as an interactive learning and knowledge mastery tool. So and it broke it down here. This is the briefing document on that one document that I put in on this, and it came in with the changes, the functionality, search for the resources, find the resources, what the benefits are, and then the dependency learning based learning sequences, specific summaries and mastery quizzes for each of the learning units. That it would progress you through the learning process with adaptive, where it would adapt the knowledge and the quizzes to your level of understanding along the way. Then the advanced voice interactivity. So you're able to do this simply with talking. You can go jogging with your headphones and microphone and be learning about all this stuff just while you're jogging away there. And then this idea of having chatbot personas. So you could literally have a meeting with a bunch of people who are experts on different parts of marketing, for example, who are quizzing you. I mean, they're talking to you, they're quizzing you about different aspects from different perspectives. there along the way. And then the idea of the expert created preloaded notebooks and talking about stuff. So at any rate, the idea is that it generated all the ChatGPT gave me a core document, and then it generated all these different things. It came up with the glossary of all the key terms along the way, and it just does so much. But one of the things here that I want to show you, and we're going to take a few minutes. I hope it doesn't you don't find this too boring, but I want to take you over and have you. I asked it to generate a podcast on this. Anybody have any objections to listening to a podcast for about 10 minutes or so, 10, 13 minutes?
No.
Okay, I think you're going to find it interesting.
All right, so today we're going to dive into Notebook LM. You know that tool that helps people learn from documents?
Yes.
Well, imagine if it could actually like teach you like a personalized learning environment.
Yeah, I think what's really fascinating about Notebook LM is that it could move beyond just organizing information and become an active participant in your learning journey.
Okay.
Like, think of it this way. You're struggling to grasp a new concept,
Right.
but instead of just reading more, you're in a discussion group with AI experts.
Okay, so I'm picturing a virtual study group.
Yeah.
But everyone else is like a super smart AI.
Exactly. And each AI persona would bring a unique perspective to the table. One might be great at explaining things simply.
Okay.
Another might offer real-world examples,
Right.
and another might challenge you with thought-provoking questions.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So where would we even begin with all this learning? There's so much information out there.
One of the first hurdles in learning is finding the right resources right.
Oh, for sure. Notebook LM could handle that for you with a populate sources feature.
Okay.
It would use AI to sift through articles,
Yeah.
videos,
Yeah.
research papers, anything,
Wow.
and pull the best ones directly into your notebook.
So no more spending hours searching for credible sources.
Exactly.
Or getting lost in a sea of irrelevant information.
Yeah, you just tell it what you want to learn about, and boom, it gathers the best sources for you.
I'm sold. But even with the right sources, sometimes it's hard to know where to start.
You're absolutely right.
Like, where do I begin?
Learning effectively often means tackling things in a specific order.
Okay.
It's like building a house, you can't start with the roof.
Makes sense.
This is where the AI comes in again.
Okay.
It can analyze all those sources and map out how different concepts connect, creating a personalized learning path.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed, I'd have a step-by-step guide.
Exactly.
Mastering one concept before moving on to the next. Exactly like having a custom-made curriculum, but for anything you want to learn.
That brings up another challenge.
Okay.
Even with great resources, sometimes I get bogged down in the details. Wouldn't it be amazing if Notebook LM could just give me the key takeaways?
That's precisely where AI-generated summaries could come in.
Okay.
Imagine after you read a source, Notebook LM presents you with a concise summary that hits all the main points.
I like that.
But it wouldn't just be regurgitating information.
Right.
It could actually highlight connections and insights that you might miss on your own.
Okay, so I'm saving time, A&D, getting a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
But how would I know if I'm actually absorbing the information?
That's where quizzes come in.
Okay.
Notebook LM could generate quizzes specifically tailored to each concept, making sure you're not just skimming the surface.
Oh, that's interesting.
And these wouldn't be your typical multiple choice tests either.
Wait, what else could they be?
Well, imagine quizzes that adapt to your level. If you're breezing through the questions, get progressively more challenging.
Oh, wow.
But if you're struggling, the AI might offer hints or break down the concept further.
Okay.
And you'd get instant feedback, so you'd know right away what you need to work on.
So it's like having a personal tutor.
Yeah.
Who constantly adjusts to my pace and learning style.
Exactly.
That's incredible. But what if I'm really stuck on something?
Yeah.
Would I just be left to figure it out on my own?
Not at all. Remember those chatbot personas we talked about earlier?
Yes.
They could step in and provide more personalized guidance.
Okay, so let's say I'm trying to learn about, I don't know, quantum physics.
Yeah.
Could I actually have a conversation with an AI that specializes in that field?
Absolutely.
Really?
Imagine having a whole panel of AI physics experts ready to explain things in different ways.
Wow.
Offer examples and answer your question. You could even have a debate with them bouncing ideas around until you really understand the concept.
A debate with AI?
Yeah.
That sounds intense,
It can,
but also incredibly helpful.
that's the goal.
It's like having access to the best minds in physics, all focused on helping me learn.
That's the idea.
So I wouldn't be limited to just one expert.
Here.
I could have a whole team of chatbot personas, each with its own expertise.
Exactly. And they could use different teaching styles.
Okay.
Maybe one persona uses analogies while another focuses on real world applications.
Interesting.
It's about finding the approach that works best for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So with all these amazing AI features, I'm starting to imagine Notebook LM as less of a tool and more of a learning companion.
I think that's a great way to put it.
But wouldn't it be great if you could also tap into the knowledge of real experts?
That's another brilliant idea outlined in this proposal.
Oh, really?
Imagine a vast library of expert created notebooks on a wide range of topics ready for you to dive into.
So I could learn about, say, ancient Roman history.
Yes.
From a notebook created by an actual historian who specializes in that period.
Exactly. And these pre-made notebooks wouldn't just be collections of facts and dates.
Yeah.
They could include all the essential elements we've discussed, learning paths, summaries, quizzes.
Yeah.
And even prompts for engaging with those chatbot personas.
So it's like getting a personalized crash course from an expert.
Yeah.
But with the added benefit of AI to guide you and answer your questions along the way.
Precisely.
And the best part is these notebooks would be curated and vetted for accuracy and quality.
Right.
So you could be confident that you're learning from reliable sources.
Absolutely.
This whole concept is so exciting.
It is.
It feels like we're on the verge of a major shift in how we learn, where AI empowers everyone to access knowledge and achieve mastery in any field they choose.
I agree. It's a really exciting time for education.
It really is.
And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me too. Absolutely. Imagine having a whole panel of AI physics experts ready to explain things in different ways, offer examples, and answer your questions. You could even have a debate with them, bouncing ideas around until you really understand the concept.
The debate with AI.
Yeah.
That sounds intense.
It can be.
But also incredibly helpful.
That's the goal.
It's like having access to the best minds in physics, all focused on helping me learn.
That's the idea.
So I wouldn't be limited to just one expert.
Right.
I could have a whole team of chatbot personas, each with its own expertise.
Exactly. And they could use different teaching styles.
Okay.
Maybe one persona uses analogies while another focuses on real world applications.
Interesting.
It's about finding the approach that works best for you.
I love that. So with all these amazing AI features, I'm starting to imagine Notebook LM as less of a tool and more of a learning companion.
I think that's a great way to put it.
But wouldn't it be great if you could also tap into the knowledge of real experts?
That's another.
Okay, it's going and doing a little bit redundant there on a piece, but okay. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this so far? By the way, that all took
It's amazing.
yeah. That was just a small it took me how long? It took me a while to go back and forth with ChatGPT to come up with what were the changes to the enhancements to Notebook LM that would help the most. But other than that, it went and it generated everything on its own. What I did, one of the things I did do here is that was actually my second try. Actually, I should have played the first one probably on how it summarized things. I think the first one was a little better, but you're able to go and do a redo, and so I did a redo to on the on that podcast there, and you can do it as often as you want, and you can save each one along the way, which I do have. I have saved that first one. I'll make that available. But because you can go in and say, I only want to know about the progression of learning through the individual learning steps and concepts. I want the podcast only to talk about that aspect. And then it will narrow its focus only to talk about that particular aspect of it. You can go and have it talk about speculative, okay, how long will it take for the average person, let's say, to complete a master's degree program? Or in the PhD, it would have come to that here if I'd let it go on. How many of you are familiar with AI scientists from Sakura from Japan? Can I see a show of hands? How many know about AI scientists? Okay. Well, this is almost going to be mind-boggling. So I think you can see a bachelor's degree program, or when K through 12 learning, and even through a master's degree program, there's a set of subjects. You have to master those subjects. You take exams, and you say, oh, okay, you passed the exam, you got a master's degree. But when it comes down now to a PhD, the idea is you're supposed to go and find some original ideas out of all this and contribute to the field of study. And this is why a lot of people will take 5 or 6 years to complete a PhD. Now, Sakura is a or an AI scientist is something that will help you identify um, things that would be good to know, that would be good for the world to know that we don't know yet. That's hard to do. When you go out there and you're going to get a PhD and you got to go out there and pick what is going to be the focus of your PhD, and then you've got to get it approved, obviously, and all. But the to come up with something here to say, I think there's really an original idea, or we're gonna get some findings. We're gonna find out about something that we don't know or are not sure of so far. And so that's the first thing. And then when you get in, you start doing research, you start creating hypotheses. And then you're taking those hypotheses and you've got to prove or you've got to disprove your hypotheses and narrow this down to come up with a discovery of something of value. Well, that's what
Bill, just to say something. It took me 2 years to do my master's and 4 to do my PhD. And yes, you had to be original.
Yes.
You had to come out with something, you had to be able to publish, and nobody else has done it before, and it has to be unique. And it has to be a contribution to the science also.
Yes. And that's exactly what Sakura, the company behind it, Sakura AI, with AI scientists, it goes and it finds areas of study, and you specify the general direction. It goes out and finds out interesting questions that the field of science would like to know about, and then it will go and formulate hypotheses. And then it will go and help you test the hypotheses, including writing entire suites of programs that it will write to test those hypotheses, to go out and gather the information and the source information to be able to go and draw conclusions around those hypotheses. So now imagine here, adding to what we have just been talking about with Notebook LM, that I'm able to use this to say, I want to know everything about this subject, to be able to now go towards the end and say, look, I want to get all the research information from everybody in the field that has published anything relative to this, and then having Notebook LM go and identify holes, things that we're not sure of that would be valuable to know, and then formulate hypotheses. And because it can formulate a million hypotheses, and then it can go and disqualify the great majority of all of those and narrow it down to the hypotheses where that would be particularly valuable or would be more likely to be provable, and then help guide you through that process. Can you see how this could greatly shorten the time for people to come up with original discoveries or original proofs that would contribute? And of course, you could actually have it help you write your material. The writing of theses and the like, creating publications, writing academic papers. They're the tools that are there that are specialized exactly in that are amazing out there. But now we combine that. So we're able to go through Notebook LM. You're learning. It could be as simple as, hey, I want to learn how to fix my leaky sink or my leaky faucet. So gather together a bunch of tutorials how to fix leaky faucets, and then go and summarize what's the most relevant for this. So can you picture how being able to integrate the capabilities of discovery, ideation, of hypotheses building, hypotheses proofing, into the learning process, the value that that would bring?
Bill, I'm in my final year of my doctoral studies in education at University of Toronto, year 6. So I understand like taking long and paying lots of money and all of that, and reading and reading and reading. I'm glad to hear about this now, but you could have saved me some time a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is you can use it now to raise the bar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 Bill, can I say something?
Okay. Yes, Uma.
I would like to add some interesting thing about my career. I have been a principal since last 16 years for O and A levels. Then recently I served as a director campus for a university. And whenever I had any CV of a PhD for teaching O and A levels, I used to keep that CV at site. Why? The thing is, they have the degrees, but when it comes to classrooms, they are a nightmare for us. And I myself is heading towards PhD right now. I don't know what I will do after that. But the thing is, this is the dilemma since last so many decades we are facing, when the PhDs are there and they are coming out and they are coming for searching for a job, especially for O and A level sector of the students from 12 years to 17 or 18 years. They are unable to deliver. I don't know why. It's really sad. Or maybe it's with only our country, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't want to label anyone.
I can give you an example here of why that's the kind of problem it is. I used to teach at Purdue University, and we were a new school. We were the School of Technology. It was a brand new school that had just opened, and we were teaching computer technology. And the school in the School of Science had computer science as a subject. In our school, because we were new and we were defining what are we about, one of the things that bothered us was in general in academia, there's the publish or perish mentality. So a lot of your professors, it's about doing research, it's about publishing books and so forth. That's the thing that they feel identifies their value. We decided in our school we wanted to be measured by only one factor, and that was the success of our students. So it was not about us having individual success. Our success was the students, because our primary mission was to prepare our students to be successful. And we were very, very good at it. Our students, once they got out into the workforce, they were earning much, much more than in their first jobs as the graduates from computer science, for example. I had one student, even in today's dollars, 2 years out of school, I think he was 24 years old at that time. He was making about $500,000 a year. Because he learned how to learn, he learned how to be successful. That was the main focus that we were concerned with. So I think here, what we're looking at all these tools and things. If somebody's just going and saying, "I want a piece of paper, a diploma or whatnot," this is not for them. But we see businesses already in the U.S. We see it in particular. University degrees are not as important as they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago. A lot of states that used to have requirements that you had to have a university degree to get a job working as a state employee have now removed that criteria, that no longer required. And we see in a lot of professions, your professional certifications for specific skills are much more valuable than just having a generic degree. generic degree basically just says today, hey, you had what it take to sit through 4 years of such education, more so than any particular amount of knowledge that you might be having. Now, one of the things about Notebook LM, though, because Notebook LM can learn anything, you can do anything. So you could actually go and say, hey, I want my classroom effectiveness. I want my effectiveness as a teacher, as somebody there who is helping my students grow and advance. That can be your focus of pulling together the materials that are out there that you can find on how do I help my students learn to learn? How do I help my students become independent learners? So that's the focus of what I want this particular notebook to help me master. So I think it's going to be a game changer, especially when it's out there and available to everybody through your smartphone. Everybody with a smartphone can plug in to learn anything about anything, anytime, and it will summarize it down, shorten it down, so that in a fraction of the time, when you think here of any course that you took at a university, and you think of how much time that you spent learning the material of that particular course, and then with hindsight, after having done it, what do you think if you had the right information in front of you, you had all the right information, and you were very focused on just learning that? How much time do you really think you would need to put in to learn that amount of content, to master that amount of content? From my experience, it's a tiny, tiny fraction of what people are typically putting in going to university courses, for example. And this is why I said, okay, can you envision here people getting a bachelor's degree in a year, or having the equivalent of a bachelor's degree knowledge in a year, of mastering the knowledge you're expected to have mastered to get a master's degree in 2 to 4 months, or the ability to go and complete a PhD with original research, because some people say, well, but the AI helped you do the research. Well, how much different is that of going to the librarian and asking the librarian to help pick out the books that
It's a faster process. It's a faster process.
It's just a faster process. That's all it is. It's just helping you be more efficient in the process. Because, just because it says, oh, you got to do original thing, doesn't mean you can't talk to anybody. You can go and say, hey, I got this appointment to talk to this professor that knows this, or I went and visited a conference where some people were speaking about this subject. And that's how we're learning. We're learning because we expose ourselves to knowledge, and to have AI help us to summarize it so that I don't have to sit through all the ums and ahs and whatnot that somebody might be speaking, or that all the time when they're fiddling around because the projector's not working, and all of those other things that would be playing a role there. Anyway, so I think here the bottom line is today, what I wanted to do was show you the potential and encourage you, if you haven't played with this, play with it, but don't just go and there are some there's a gazillion YouTubes out there on Notebook LM, and some of them specifically about using Notebook LM to learn things. And so some of them are very good. I will try to pull some of those that I think are particularly valuable. But there's one out there that I would particularly encourage you to learn. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I published this not too long ago, saying it's one of the best, most valuable here examples. And
ya vino el señor.
What it is, Paula, could you mute yourself, please? Okay, not there.
Sorry, Bill. It's because I have people here, and usually Saturdays I'm by myself.
Okay. Where at any rate, what this was is it's about use cases, and it shows how many different use cases, radically different kinds of use cases that somebody went through, looking for how they could use this. Okay, so why don't some of you talk? Well, I'm trying to pull this up because I think it is valuable if I can find it. Uh, it, Notebook LM use cases. Okay, I'll look for that. Why don't you guys, I'd like to get more of your thoughts on what we've been looking at today here, because others will hear what you have to say, and that might trigger some thoughts on their mind. So please, if you guys could just speak, don't speak over each other, but as long as nobody's speaking, just jump in and speak.
Okay, since I was interrupted, sorry about that. I think it's interesting. First of all, I have something to say about being the comparison from being in a classroom and obtaining a degree like a slow pace, such a master's or PhD that takes. In my case, it took 2 years for a master's and 4 years for a PhD, compared to artificial intelligence now where it summarizes everything. The difference that I see is kind of like I see that college is like a rite of passage where we learn, we make connections, we learn to be ourselves. Is the time most of us do that or take when we're much younger. So it's kind of like we are exploring the world, the possibilities out there. And the thing that I compared that it would be different with AI is most focused in the learning process and the application and getting only the few things that we need to increase our knowledge. And that's okay too. But I think there is a big difference. And all these tools that like Notebook LM or even the podcast that was generated, and those are amazing. I think they are very useful. It depends how we can use it. In my case, I always want to know a little bit more. Like, for example, I'm trying to find something where I can take notes when I'm in the meeting because sometimes I get interrupted, sometimes I'm doing something else, sometimes, and I do not pick up all the things, but I want somebody to do that, like an assistant to do that for me. And that's valuable, absolutely valuable. And going back to teaching, like you're saying, why do you want to put up with a professor? They want to teach most of the in the US at least. I don't know some places. Some of the parents send their kids to a specific college because they want to have the connection. They want to have the pedigree, a degree, and all in my case, I was a teaching assistant, and I actually was the one that ended up teaching the class. And the students liked me because I had a solution for all their questions. Because I was lucky enough that when I was teaching that course, I already have taught it before in a different university.
New framework called VASA. VASA is a framework for generating realistic talking faces for
So that's it.
We have to be careful through this whole process that we don't lose the human connection. There's such advances here, speed and money and knowledge at our fingertips. But from an education perspective, a humane perspective, we have to, I think at this time of change, we've got to be thinking about the human connection too. Because we can see how it affects kids and kids in their 20s, always on the screens. And how do we create a balance in society?
We can't hear you. Hello?
Stephanie, you were talking and then suddenly you got muted.
Yeah, no, I just said, like, how do we create a balance in society that where we don't eliminate the human component? You know, we see the kids, you know, I say kids 30 and under who are
Yes.
on the screens all the time, and there's so much capability for learning and whatnot. But it comes at the the speed of this now, you know, could allow us to do things quicker, but we have to ensure that there's a human element because we're losing that. We're losing like interpersonal skills. So that's just my concern because people don't know how to make eye contact and have chit chat. And I think that as all of us who are here representing different organizations and kind of the same goals for efficiency and knowledge and learning, how do we also keep our alerts on for the well-being of humanity and our interpersonal skills?
There's something, sorry about that earlier, as I went out and tried to find that link for you here to these different use cases. All of a sudden, my Chrome decided it was going to activate all the videos that I was pointing to at once, but I managed to kill those off. As far as the humanity factor goes and the learning factor goes, one of the problems that we have is we very often try to overload functions. So we try to say, okay, let's have while you're trying to learn your physics and your chemistry, that we try to do interpersonal things at the same time. I had a discussion with a professor when I was down in Washington last week, who said he runs everything any of his students does through an AI checker, and if the AI checker comes back saying AI was used to help develop that paper, whatnot, he gives them a 0. So I said, well, wait a minute, is writing skills part of your subject? No. So I said, well, you're telling the world that this person has this degree of knowledge about your subject, and you're basing the score, the grade you give them on their writing skills, which has nothing to do with whether they know or don't know your subject. So we need to separate these things out. And it's interesting to see that one of the first schools that really has dived into AI in education, Alpha School in Austin, Texas, that they have gone and they AI is 100%. They don't have human teachers teaching. They have AI is teaching all the academic subjects, and they jumped into the top 1% of schools in the United States based on academic achievement. But what that's done is they now only need 2 hours a day to cover all the academic learning that they're doing and still have that high output result. And what's that done is it's given them so many hours of the day that they now devote to arts and to interpersonal and to doing projects and things like this. So I think what we have to be very careful of that yes, we want to encourage the interpersonal aspect, but we don't want to say at the cost of knowledge. You know, one of the things that always bugged me in schools is when they do project work and they assign, say 4 students to work on a project. And you can observe when you go in the classroom and see that they're really those top students, they go out there and they tell the weaker students in their team, just keep quiet and stay in the corner and stay out of our way because we don't want you affecting our grade. And then those couple of top students take off, and the others don't get any value out of it. That happens so often. So we've got to separate the idea that the learning, because in the end of the day, you go to apply for the job, it doesn't make any difference what your teammates did in some project you did in school. It's going to depend on your knowledge and your ability, or if you have to go and take the bar exam or any state exam, it's you that has to do that. So you need to have the knowledge. So I don't think we need to, I don't think we should try to say, oh, we have to make everything include everything. The learning of the material, you got to learn the material and it's got to go into your head. It's not going into a group head. And the second thought in this in general, and I've seen this in my grandchildren have more interaction with other people, especially from different cultures, than they ever would have had without social media in this particular case. And one could argue that, well, yeah, but that's at the cost of the interpersonal. No, because, for example, my granddaughter has taken trips of up to 5 hours to meet with people that she's met online after we check and make sure that they are who they say they are. But as a result here, she's met with young girls who are working for the German Olympic to be part of the German Olympic team, and it's because you're able to find the people who share your passions and your interests, or able to expose you to things you never thought of. So I think we have to be careful, like they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on some of these things. Our problem is very often the teachers don't know how to handle the social things, so they try to say, hey, if we put it all together, it's somewhere's out there and it's being taken care of. I think we need to have courses that are dedicated to values and to interpersonal skills, and things like that. We can't just say, oh, it's something that happens in life along the way, because we see too many people. They complete the whole growing up process, and they never developed certain social skills and interpersonal skills. So we should create a focus on that, so we make sure that they are covered, and they're covered for every student. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that particular aspect. So now that I've killed off hopefully these other things, I'm gonna let you guys continue to talk for a second. I now know what I'm looking for here. I found this source, so I'm gonna go out and see if I can pull that up real quick and put it in the chat.
I'm very much interested in doing my PhD in few months rather than spending years and years. Bill, can you hear me? No.
I hear you.
I'll be back.
I just put stuff together on food science. I let me give you a couple of a few minutes of it just to hear it.
Fear of the unknown mistrust of big corporations. It's complicated.
It is. But having these conversations is crucial. We need open dialogue about the potential benefits and risks of these technologies.
Totally. So we've got the spectrum of approaches, from working with nature to harnessing cutting edge science. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But that's what makes it so fascinating. There's no one size fits all solution. The future of food is going to be a mix of all these things.
And that's why it's so important to explore all these different perspectives, weigh the pros and cons and figure out what role we want to play.
Right. It's about being informed and making conscious choices about the food we eat and the future we want to create.
And that's what this deep dive is all about.
Exactly. So let's keep digging, shall we?
You bet. We've only just scratched the surface.
There's a whole world of food innovation out there waiting to be explored.
Let's do it.
It's kind of like we're looking at two different worlds, right? Back to nature versus high tech.
Yeah, I see that. Like permaculture and regenerative ag, they're all about working with what's already there, letting nature be the guide.
Exactly. It's a pretty big departure from the way we've been doing things. Industrial ag, it's all about maximizing output.
but often at the expense of the environment.
Right. And then you have these futuristic solutions like gene editing and lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Totally. But that's where those ethical questions come in. Can we control these technologies? Will they benefit everyone, or will they just create new problems?
Yeah, it's like this philosophical battle between nature and technology.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes, we heard it.
Okay, so I just put that together. It's 10 minutes long altogether. I put that together while you were talking.
So you spent a couple of minutes and were able to pull that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that shows a little bit the power of this. I'm going to share my screen and hold on.
I just used a couple of websites that I knew about because it's stuff that I've been interested in, and just listed them down the side. Gave an idea what I wanted them to talk about, press regenerate, and that was it.
Thank you for this.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So here on the left-hand side, this website here, by the way, I'm going to jump over to the right-hand side. And you can see here my cursor, this one that keeps flashing in and out because I moved my cursor over it. And it's I'm not familiar with this particular one, but it says Notebook LM, learn anything. So you can see that's going on. And somebody raised the question, can Notebook LM generate the images in the graphs and things like this? And you see just above that one here, where it's flipping back and forth now, they've got this tool that will create images for Notebook LM. And then down below, you see here another Notebook LM tutorial, 6 use cases you never thought of. So going back to this one that I'm going to give you the link to, it's called 10 Ways to Use Notebook LM in Less Than 10 Minutes. And what I'm just going to read through these. Keeping up with niche information with Notebook LM, keeping up with general information, client notebooks, interactive call summaries using Notebook LM. So you can take all your customer contacts and dump them in, and it will keep you up to date. It'll even go through strategies for you as to how to present whatever you're trying to sell to your clients or whatever they're dealing with their problems or whatnot. Then doing project management with project notebooks, internal meetings for sharing what happened in a meeting. You can take for a Zoom call, and you can make that Zoom call be your link. You have to wait 72 hours, I understand, before YouTube summarizes your YouTube, but then you can just make that the subject of your notebook, and it will synthesize the whole conversation, what was discussed there. Then Notebook LM used for market research, health and wellness, keeping track of your health, or doing any research on any illness or any particular thing related to health that you care about. So you can say, oh, there's some disease or whatnot. Just take all the information related to that disease, dump it in, and it becomes almost your digital doctor related to that. Using Notebook LM for decision making, helping you come to decisions on things. Travel and hobbies. You want to take a trip, dump a whole bunch of travel videos and information about where you want to go into Notebook LM, and it will guide you. Planning a presentation. It will help you pull out all the key information for planning a presentation. Editing the podcasts that it generates. You can edit those. How to upload books into that and so forth. So this is just one example, but you're able to see along the sides all the different ways. Research. This gentleman here, Andy Stapleton, he's very well known as being a real guru on things to do with research. And so he really pulls advanced research information together with regards to using Notebook LM. And so we can see all these different things here that you can do. So I'm going to take this link here. And let me stop this share. Well, first of all, let me just ask here. I'm going to pull. Let's take the market research example.
And now for one of my absolute favorite use cases. Use case number 6 is using this for market and competitive research. I created a whole video just on this, but I think this is one of the #1 use cases for Notebook LM. Loading up all sorts of information about your competitors, loading up information about your audience and about your customers. I'm going to link to a video that I created all about that, that really helped me uncover some pretty amazing marketing strategies. So market research is a biggie for Notebook LM. So those are all different use cases you can think about in your professional life, but there's still a lot more we can do with this tool in your personal life. So for health and fitness, I have a notebook loaded up with my 2 all-time favorite books. You can put full books in here as your resources. It can handle up to 50 full-length books, 50 very large books. One thing I didn't mention is that you can actually point this if you want to do a chat just with one particular book or one particular source. You can control that right here by checking and unchecking these boxes. So if I just wanted to know what Terry Walls was saying in the Walls protocol about some
Okay, so let's stop that. Okay, so I hope what you're getting out of this is that it's pretty open to do whatever you want to do, and I think there's some terrific opportunities. Otavia, I'd be very interested in your thoughts on this. Otavia is a student currently, so it'd be interesting to have a student's perspective. What do you think about all this?
Hi. Hello, good morning. Good morning. No, it's been actually very interesting following all of your discussion this morning. I've used a notebook, the Google Notebook sometimes, but my school is actually embracing AI and these new technologies, and it's part of our way of learning. So it's definitely something that I'm used to, kind of. Obviously, they're new. They develop and there are new amazing opportunities you can do with AI every day. It's hard to keep up with the pace of these new functions and new opportunities you can do. But it's been really interesting and stimulating to see everything you talked about this morning and all the different options. Obviously, the question about post secondary and higher degree education is something we're all talking about even at school and with my peers, just to understand, so what jobs should we do, what field of study should we go into, is there anything like what are the risks or threats, or how can we use AI as something, as a tool for us, and to create new opportunities in the future for us. And yeah, it's something like, it's every day, it's a topic that I discuss with my teachers, my friends, my peers. And I think AI can have well, has demonstrated to have positive outcomes and can be something, well, it's part of our lives now, and we should start embracing it even more. And it's interesting, and I really like joining these meetings just to keep up with these the new options that are available out there, and to just be updated and constantly stimulated by the opportunities you can have with AI.
Great, thank you. Gloria, Gloria, you're joining us for the first time. What are your thoughts on today's meeting?
Hello, everyone. It's certainly very interesting to learn about, different AI tools. I think the predominant ones used, I think, here in East Africa are ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. I've really enjoyed learning about this new one in particular, especially when it comes to helping out with research. But I think for most of us on this side of the world, you're trying to understand how you can best have students use AI in a more ethical way. So I think one of the speakers pointed that how do we, keep the human contact or feel with it? I think that's in most countries in Africa, it's still, I think, a big question. But I'm enjoying so far learning a lot from everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Gloria, you are in the school environment. Could you envision here one of the options is these things are new and we don't have a lot of notebooks that are there. Could you see the value of assigning in a class to have a class build a notebook about the subject that they are learning in that class, and in that process of doing that, going out there, because right now they got to go out there and do the search and they got to find their source materials, populating it, but then listening to it before they might tweak something on the podcast to say we want to emphasize or de-emphasize some aspect of that. Could you see how that could be particularly valuable for students to participate in building notebooks about the subjects they're learning, sort of a Feynman technique approach. For those of you not familiar, Feynman technique is where you have students learn how to teach the subject they're trying to learn to others. What are your thoughts on that, Gloria?
I mean, that would certainly be a brilliant idea, given that, we have a broad range of, learners and who prefer different learning styles. So, creating such, tools that are very interactive would certainly help, especially given that we have a number of students who have HDHA as well. So if you have such tools as well, certainly it would help a great deal in their learning. And I'm pretty sure a number of them would certainly be more interested, in helping, come up with such tools, especially because I teach in an IB school, especially the grade 11, the DP students, the IB diploma students and careers program students. So certainly be happy to take part in this. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Fayez, yes, please.
Thank you for this meeting, and I heard a lot of interesting ideas about AI and its use. I agree that AI is going to be here. It's not going away. Here, I would like to emphasize on the role, like humanistic approach of using AI in language teaching. So by humanistic
Very
approach,
important topic.
yeah, by humanistic approach, what I mean is that the humanistic view of teaching is actually that finding the complete or full potential of learners beyond the topic covered or the syllabus covered or something like that, or transfer of knowledge. It's beyond that. So to enable students to understand the constantly changing world, it means that they need to be independent. They need to recognize the connection between the school subject and the world around them, and then use that knowledge, rely on experience, and think critically when solving life's problems. So in this connection, what I did with my class, I'm teaching in a project-based setting where we don't have exams, we don't have textbooks. So I was dealing with personal career discovery project with my students in communication class. It's basically listening and speaking. So, but they have to complete a project over 3 weeks, and they start with designing, like this. The whole process starts with, discussing the personal career, discovery about that, creating a job advertisement, then creating 30 job interview related questions, then designing a CV, and finally doing a real job interview, like enacting a job interview within a team of 4 to 5 students. So where one student is the candidate, the other 3 or 4 are the interviewers, and there's a judge, or maybe outside the 2 or 3 judges who decide should that person be selected or rejected. So what I did within that, what I found when I started working with the question and questionnaire, I found that a lot of my students were not able to think like what kind of questions are related to real life situations, what happens uh, during any given day in the work in the office, so about skills, about their role in the workplace, their connection with the colleagues, their previous experience, and their new learning. So what I did, I graded their questions. There were language problems, of course, the way they phrased the questions. And then there was a lot of discrepancy between their levels. So to decrease that and to bring all the students on one level, like on equitable level of understanding, I asked them to uh, keep their migrated questions on one side and then create those questions with the help of Gemini or ChatGPT. They did it.
Yes.
Then they compared, they contrasted, and then they found the problems. They kept the questions which can help them with their particular choice of career, and they skipped those which they didn't need or which they don't work within their culture. So there were certain questions which don't work in a certain culture. So, and then the same thing I did with job advertisement, the same thing I did with the CV, something like that. And so in this way, what I found that AI can create a kind of equal environment in
Yes.
the class, equal opportunities of learning. And at the end, I found a kind of satisfaction among students that, okay, all of them had perfect questions. All of them have well-made questions. And then they practiced with them. And then they were happy with okay, my question, like most of my students were thinking that my questions do not have those problems, language problems, phrasing, or even the problems with the ideas or something like that. So in this view, like having a balance between looking at students' emotions, feelings about their language, about their lackings, about their areas where they struggle, and then giving them an opportunity to move away with those things and move beyond those things and going to a level where they perform the final stage, the final product with the kind of perfection. I think that is empowering.
Yes, and
So,
you have created AI in your teaching strategies. That is the best part.
yep, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's how I define humanistic way
Yeah.
of using AI. That's all.
That's what we all teachers have to do. We have to integrate, but in our own manners. You have designed your technique and integrated AI in your own manner, keeping in mind your class space. That
Yeah.
means you are empathetic at the same time and similar at the simultaneously you have integrated, took the help from AI. And that's
Exactly.
how in next time you can address inclusion in a better manner as well. Because and AI can address inclusion. And that's what you are actually talking about. It's
That's
great.
right.
What
That's
one
right.
of the things I think there's some of the things that I didn't mention is we have the capability with AI, especially in the area of HR and jobs and so forth,
Yes. Yes, yes.
that we can simulate, where until now we go in and there's a textbook and you learn about some dry process. Because the students don't never see it and never experience it, they really don't know. We're moving very rapidly in the area of games development, where
Yes.
now just about a week ago, the first totally AI game. In other words, until now, if you go to play a video game, that game is somebody wrote the video game, the program, and you're just going through that. So it's almost like a predefined maze, and you're going through the maze. But right now we have our first video game out there that it doesn't exist. In other words, it is being made up as you're playing it. So nobody can tell you, oh, go down this street and take the third right, and then you're going to get to some destination, because that road hasn't been constructed yet, and it's being constructed as you play the game. And as characters come into the game, you can talk to the characters that you encounter. So you can say, "Did you see somebody with a red hat run by here?" Or things like this. So the idea that we can now simulate, in the very near future, we can simulate any environment. So that student, we can put them into that simulation of what it's like to do a job. Okay, you're going to do this job for the next hour. What's it like? What are you going to be doing? And so that they can experience that, or whether you're interacting with somebody. We have a project that we're trying to get off the ground here to get a number of young people working with an expert panel of professional diplomats, UN ambassadors and the like, and a team of advisors of AI experts to discuss putting together a toolkit for professional diplomats that would help them understand the problems that are being discussed in committees, understanding what the positions of all the other players, all the other representatives on the committee or their countries, where they're coming from, what their positions are, and then having a strategy to figure out how are we going to achieve consensus, but then be able to actually be in hypothetical situations where you're standing in the hallway and there's five representatives of other countries around you, and you're discussing the issue or the point of contention or whatever, and so you're practicing, how do I convince them? And these AIs, they're playing their role of saying no, they're trying to resist you convincing them, and they're trying to convince you, and so you can do that. We're seeing right now, if you haven't heard about it, there are such a thing as interactive avatars. So if you can't attend a Zoom meeting like this one of these times, but you want to say something, you can just send your avatar, and your avatar can represent you, and it can react to what the other people in the conversation are saying, because it understands where you're coming from, and so it can literally represent you. And then when the meeting's over, it goes back and tells you what was going on in the meeting, and what the reaction was to things you said, and so forth. So right now, one of the use cases that's becoming popular on that is companies having HR avatars do the interviews with potential job candidates. So the ability here to use an AI to help a potential job candidate prepare for an interview by doing practice sessions with an interviewee based on that industry, being based on that particular company. There's so many aspects that we can put into that right now. But the key thing that I'd like to suggest, I've suggested a number of things that we're looking at as enhancements. Now, these enhancements, there's probably somebody out there working on them right now, but some of them can be done just by the way you do the prompting. And we learned so much. I've seen here, I never would have expected that I could put the instructions into creating one of those podcasts, that instead of summarizing what my website says about whatever's on my website to critique the website itself. That just by asking for it. So we're learning that by asking for things, some of the things that we can get are just absolutely amazing. I would like to suggest putting together a team of people that are interested to see how we can take these tools, and especially the Notebook LM is one, but there are other tools becoming available, such as AI Scientist from Sakura that creates all the hypotheses and tests them out, to be particularly studying what's going on in this particular field and going and creating some actual use cases and examples relative to education. So we push the envelope and perhaps contacting Google or others there and trying to establish contact with the teams to make suggestions to, hey, have you thought about this enhancement or that enhancement to these teams or to these tools that could make them so much more valuable? So is that something here that there might be interested? Would any of you be interested in participating in such a project to push the envelope and trying out see how far we can?
So how much did it cost to fill your tank?
Pardon? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear whoever just was speaking. Was that?
Sorry.
Okay. Fayez, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to, I would just like to add something here. As you mentioned, critiquing a website, one of my colleagues has used AI in technical English language. He teaches this course, like he's an expert in that. That course actually involves like how to critique it, how to critique a document, a pamphlet, a machine manual, an advertisement, and so the technical name is audience analysis and the document analysis. So what do they do? Like they students look at the white space, the colors used, the language, the diction, the images, the shape, how a document is folded, and something like that. So like all aspects. So what he did, he at certain intervals of creating a document and critiquing a document, he applied AI tools, and then his students not only created the documents with the help of AI, but also they did a kind of critique or criticism or document analysis on the already prepared or samples of documents. And I heard similar interesting points from him, and I had similar like discussions with him. So like he kept a balance between the students' own creativity and integration of AI. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Paula. Paula, you're muted.
Just a minute.
Okay, while we're waiting for Paula, I just want to present this. I said we would talk a little bit about education in general. This is a paper. It's a quite an exhaustive paper, 50 pages. The title is ChatGPT's comments on closing the early childhood education preparation gap. That is the from ages, let's say 1 through 5, the mental maturity, the verbal vocabulary and language skills, to be prepared to be able to be successful in a school environment. And it's very interesting because it's very good. It came out with what are things like encouraging the imagination, the growth of the imagination, of the critical thinking, creative thinking, and so many different aspects, and then how how one could um, help the growth in each of these areas among these very young children, and particularly how AI, if AI was had that responsibility because there's no adult there who's qualified or able or willing to be able to do that job. So in case of a, let's say a young child living in a household that does not speak the language that is spoken in the school system, how do we make sure that child has the verbal vocabulary skills to be able to succeed in that and when they do hit that school system, or being able to just have general knowledge in the language of the school environment, and it goes through so many. It hits pretty much every point you can imagine that is important for a young child to do this. I'll just read for you one uh, thing. It looks for things talking about understanding early childhood development, developing a plan, interactive language development platform, cognitive skill enhancement tools, multisensory learning experiences, social and emotional development, personalized learning paths, parental involvement features, and then it goes into implementation strategies on all these different points. And what's really interesting on this is as it got to the end and it went and defined all these things that the AI, that if ChatGPT had an app, if there was an AI app that was supervising young children and had the mission of not only keeping them safe by alerting them, don't do that, don't do bad behavior, don't do something that would be dangerous, but also to make sure that the child grows in these various aspects that he needs to grow in. And then I asked it, okay, can you develop the prompts that would develop the app to do that? And it did. It generated for me all the prompts to be able to have the AI take the initiative to guide the student, guide that young child to learn all of those things with the goal that a child from, let's say, a disadvantaged background would have the same skill levels and emotional maturity when they hit kindergarten as a child who's gone to expensive preschools. And I thought that was pretty amazing. And I ended up with a 50-page document out of those exchanges. But it shows, I don't know what the limit is here that, you come out and say, yeah, AI can do it. And then you can say, okay, would you please do it then for me? And it will do. Can it do it all? Does it? I didn't get as far as to say, okay, now build the thing for me, because I'm waiting a little bit for Amazon Alexa, for example, coming out with the new AI built into it, because that has vision, hearing, and so forth. So you have a physical device you can put in front of young children on that. But I thought that was interesting to look at. And the other thing
Okay.
yes, go ahead, Paulie.
Yeah. The two things. You just mentioned that you're forming like a new group, or ask if some people were interested in being part of a group that you said that you want to build some new specific. Maybe I misunderstood, but you can actually correct me. Uh, build the connections with companies or somebody that actually, the big players, the ones that create all these things. To use that for specifically for something that we want to do. And in addition, this is in addition to our effort in education. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the education, we have several things. We have the project about closing the education gap, and we have, for example, the project that's aimed at the K through 12, and we have what I was just reading was applying to prior to pre-K, if you would, ages 2 to 5, and preparing them for K through 12. And then what we've been discussing today could apply. You could apply it through, let's say, secondary school, middle school, and high school, as well as in post-secondary education.
But you would like to, I'm sorry, but you would like to specifically develop using all these AI devices or applications, create something,
yeah,
combine them for specifically
there's sort of
with a group.
There's the aspects of the projects of deploying, of doing practice in the field to use the AI in practice, and that's the closing the gap type projects that we have. But I'm envisioning here projects that are about how do we get the tools that may end up getting used in the other project on the ground, but how do we influence the tools now? Our Rotary Club, our Dare to Be Great Rotary Club, what are we? We see here the opportunity or the need that the world needs to be improved in a number of different areas, and but we realize, it's not up to us to roll up our sleeves and we're going to go get some shovels and we'll do it all ourselves. That's crazy. All we can do is we can try to influence the world, both the influence the people of influence and influence the people directly to bring about the changes that are needed. But to do that, to be able to go and influence people, you need to know where do you influence them to. So we need to be a facilitator of sort of like a think tank facilitator to facilitate gathering the good ideas that we want to then influence people with. So those ideas fall into two categories. One is the application on the ground, things like the Close the Gap projects. And the other one is on technologies themselves, on tools and technologies themselves. So what I was just suggesting there with regards to taking a tool like Notebook LM, and we can look here at the agent tools that are due out in the next couple of months. We're not talking more than that. It includes Google Jarvis. It includes the orchestrator, which is Open AI, and it includes Magneto from Microsoft. Those are due out shortly. But can we take the tools that are there and see ways to use them? In other words, build the use case examples that our influencer side can then try to get out to the public as examples of look what you can do. So the suggestion on this particular project here was, hey, let's take the tools that are there, Notebook LM, Perplexity, ChatGPT, whatever combination right now that we would need, and be able to go and demonstrate these additional features that I described that in some cases are not there at all. In some cases, may be able to be connected because, for example, Claude 3.5 computer control, you have the ability to go and go out to different websites, have it do things, and have take those results and do something else with it. So conceivably, you could go and have Claude go out to Perplexity, gather up the information on the 50 sites, and then have it go and populate it into Notebook LM, and then have it go and do what I did with my mouse, clicking on Notebook LM to generate the podcasts and things like this. So, potentially doing those. So I'm just sort of thinking aloud, but potentially here, if we have a couple of people, we could actually go and try to do that. So that's the suggestion.
Oh, I'm interested because I want to learn myself, and if we can come up with something that other people could use it, it's fine. But
I need to get
education,
going.
don't forget.
Yes.
But I just was gonna say I need to get going. So
yeah. I want to, just before you leave, Lloyd, one thing I'd like to just clarify, because there was a couple of comments made as, oh, yeah, we can use that in the classroom for this and for that. Um, I don't know here if there are going to be classrooms in the very near future. Maybe as a place, because certain places they don't have laptops. So that's the place you can go, and there's a bunch of laptops there. And if you've got a problem using your laptop or whatever, there's somebody that can help you. There may be things like that. But the idea of a class with a teacher, and Tuesday you're doing this, and next Wednesday you're doing that, I think that's not going to exist in within a year. It's not going to exist because all of these tools, what they're doing, they're enabling the personalization of learning, where everybody's learning at different paces and they're working on something differently. So the idea that you've got a class that's doing the same thing at the same time, I really don't see that surviving, other than in very backward and poor areas.
Well, actually, that's a conversation.
A little bit controversial.
Definitely, it's a conversation I'd like to continue with you. I was, as I had mentioned you in a private chat, connected to a gentleman also in the US that would like to roll out some of these tools as well, using cell phones, that will allow people in even the furthest communities anywhere to learn. What we are also talking about through this new BIPOCA Alliance is reimagining our libraries, creating maker spaces, creating laboratories for people from the community to come in to interact with these AI-enabled devices, and to really learn by doing, and to rethink the community spaces. So actually, we're going to be talking with library associations across the U.S., across Canada, and around the world to rethink about how we use these spaces. Because even yourself, you're sitting in what looks like a library, right? All those books on the shelves can be digitized, can be brought into a space that can bring out that knowledge, and you can start interacting with those libraries in completely different ways.
Yes, the idea that you can talk to textbooks now, the idea that you can talk to YouTube videos. There's actually demonstrations out there using Notebook LM, where people are using that to be able to talk to the tutorials, the YouTube tutorials, and have a conversation basically with the YouTube tutorial or your textbook, and say, I'm on page 213, paragraph 3, and I'm having this trouble understanding what's going on, and have a discussion about that paragraph. So yes, brave new worlds out there, but the thing we have to watch out for is, because it's moving so fast, we have to stick to general directions, because we don't want to get people to be experts in using something that's going to be obsolete 3 weeks after they learned it. That's a big challenge that we've got.
I do need to get going, so thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you very much, Lloyd. And Kurt was next, and then Ramash, I'll come to you. So Kurt.
Yeah, hello. I'm so happy to be able to have listened to this a great deal, and I wish I could have seen the visuals and so on. But a big key that I think, we're looking at the old style of education, the old style of business, and the old style of the, instead of looking into the future. And like the little kids can learn how to have better interactions, possibly by asking this AI kind of a thing, if they're having trouble with their mother or their sister or somebody in class. And that way they don't, but that also takes away from being able to have that connection with a human being. And that's a real important thing, that so many people are getting onto the screen time is the big thing that people talk about.
We
now
have to
that
watch out for one thing on that, Kurt, that I think is very, very important. We look at the ideal parent and we say we see the disadvantage here that this could weaken the bond between that child and the parent. But what we don't realize is, well, what about the parents that are not doing the job of the parents? Are we abandoning those children because we're saying, well, because the good parents, we don't want to interfere with the what the good parents are doing.
it won't interfere with what good parents do. I don't think anything can interfere with what good parents
Right.
do that are giving loving kindness and so on.
But what it
When
does do is there's a movement out there that says because we don't even want to risk it, we do not allow third parties to get involved with the children in a lot of different fields. And then the result is where the parent is not doing the parenting job, those children are left on their own. And this is we need to find a way that if we have a parent who's got the time and the inclination to be there and really guide that child in their growth and everything, that is absolutely great. But where that does not exist here, if the AI is the next best thing that could help that child become not only their counselor, become their mentor, their coach in helping prepare them to be successful. I think most parents who say, I can't do it myself because I never went to school, I don't have an education, I don't speak the language, that they could do that, and I think we got to find the
Bill,
balance.
you just gave a really good query to your AI dude.
I've had a lot of conversations exactly about that.
Just now is exactly what you could input into whatever one you want to use.
That's where this came from, this 50-page document.
I want to put my book into it and see how I can get it in even better and so on, and what is missing. So I want to talk to you actually a little bit more later, but that's another issue. But I don't want to take you away from your sweet wife either, because you're always doing.
Okay, thank you. Ramesh, you're muted, Ramesh. You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Put your mic on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. My question is there any local place? I had sent some of the information to some of my friends, but they said, can they go somewhere where somebody can guide them how to start with all this AI thing because they have no idea and all that. Is there anything local here in New Jersey?
Well, the whole AI is basically not physical. You don't have to be physically present. They can join a Zoom meeting. If you want, we can try to organize for beginners so we can take people who have no experience whatsoever and introduce them. Because I realize asking somebody to watch a 3-hour video on this is probably going to be too overwhelming. But there are definitely we can do a Zoom and give people 3 or 4 15, 20-minute videos that they could watch to understand what's capable with the things that are possible today. We could do
but there is no place where somebody could go and then meet people and they can guide them and show them and all that. No.
We could do a meetup on something like that, but I don't know what the benefit is, because if you've got 4 or 5 people together and you're going to say, oh, let's do it together, and you meet somewheres and you're sitting there all trying to gather around a little laptop to understand, people are better off if they are able to sit there and each look at their own laptop and be able to see a full screen. They probably get more out of it. And one of the things that can be added to that is the capability that there are a lot of add-on tools that I'm not using, I don't have turned on with AI and Zoom that enable each of the individual participants to capture the transcripts of the parts that are particularly useful to them.
Okay. But personal interaction has something different. because then one can ask,
Yeah, I
okay,
mean,
you need,
if you want, we can set something up. You and I are close enough together. We're only about 20, 30 minutes apart. And so I wouldn't mind if you want to set something up for a meeting on that. But
okay, 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 okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So we've had a lot of discussions here, and so I hope this you find show of hands. Has this been a useful session today?
Very useful. Good.
It is an amazing session. It was an amazing session. Very useful.
Yeah,
Very
certainly
good.
very it's an eye opener.
And interactive.
Yes, yes. And I'm glad here we were able to get so many people contributing to the discussion today because this is important and a lot of our topics we haven't been able to do that because I talk too much. And so I'm really appreciate the fact that so many people were able to contribute so much today. And we will look. One of the things on the invite to today's session, I would like to particularly ask you on the invite to today's session and the invite to explain last week's session, there's a link to a manifesto of our Rotary Club, our Dare to Be Great Rotary Club, that says, what do we see the problems of the world, and how do we see what can we do to make a positive difference in the world? And I believe it's quite different from what a lot of other folks are doing, a lot of other Rotary clubs, almost all other Rotary clubs. And it concerns me because and I've been to all the world conventions, Rotary conventions, except one since 2018, I think it's since Toronto. And one of the questions I ask is when we look at all the problems facing the world, and we look here at our Rotary clubs doing 1 million projects per decade, more than 1 million, or if we look at all the NGOs doing more than 1 million projects per year, and then what major problems in the world are we closer to having resolved today than we were maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago? And especially if we say, okay, based on Rotary, where are we closer to resolving major problems and threats to our world than we were 30 years ago? And we see for all these efforts that we've done, we really haven't moved any closer. Yes, polio. We've done a good job on polio. Polio is a fraction of 1% of the world problems. And we're facing more and more problems that could be existential. We're talking about the speed at which this AI is evolving. As I mentioned, we expect here before the end of the year or before the end of January, we will see at least 2 to 3 agent technologies being introduced that have the potential, I guess, literally to take over the nuclear missile controls, potentially, but have the potential to be self-improving and be able to go through a generation of improvement that when we humans do it are maybe going to take a week to a month or a quarter, that it could probably do it in 5 minutes. And as we could go through 1,000 years worth of iterative improvement of AI in a day, not under our control. Just the AI could do it, and all of a sudden, none of us biological humans have any say over what's going on this planet anymore. So we have those kinds of risks. We definitely have the risks. We just have to take a look at the storms happening around the world. That we look at what's happening on the North Pole and Greenland and the South Pole with global warming. So there's all these threats, and we can't go and say, oh, we're going to solve one problem out there because there's a bunch of problems, and any one of them could go and kill us all. So we've got to figure out how can we keep an eye and deal so that we can protect our community, our world, from potential threats that are out there. So what I'm asking here is if you look at the invitation to today's meeting, to last week's meeting, and I suggest I gave you a link to go and read our manifest about our club, why, what we think, what we see the problems, what we see as the causes, and what we think we can do about them, and comment on those, please. All of you have comment rights to that document. And at the bottom of that document, if you're interested in wanting to know more about our club and maybe even wanting to get involved in some of the things that our club is trying to do, there's a link there where you can request further information. So, but if you could at least read the manifesto, please, and give your thoughts to that, because we've only got this one world out there, and we're playing with a lot of fire in the things that we're doing. So I'm very interested in your feedback on those things. Otherwise, anybody have any last comments you want to make? Otherwise, I will call this meeting to an end.
I want to thank you again, like everybody does every day. Thanking you so much for all this stuff that you give us. And you're an incredible example of
Exactly.
that also uses not only his keen intellect, but also gives it a lot of good wisdom. Thank you. And I zoom you off with the peace salute.
Good job.
With peace.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And
Good job.
look forward to seeing
Thank you,
you.
Will. Thanks to you, Will.
All the best. Good job.
Good, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
You.
Assalamu alaikum.